How do you become a good manager? Do you have to study or to try and learn from your own mistakes, or just imitate a good manager?
Well, the answer is a combination of both. Some people say that good managers are born, but I think in today's world environment, this is not a realistic answer, because if you make a serious mistake, your chances to stay manager much longer are very, very limited. You know, business is not forgiving. So I think you need to have a talent and, for example, a good attitude to risk, which is not really acquired by studying, but it's in your genes. But you also need to understand the various functions of business and learn about them. You need to be good in finance, you need to be able to sell, you need to be able to understand how to produce. So those things are being learned, okay? Good managers also have to develop skills, what are called soft skills in business, you know. Being able to be leaders, being able to listen, being able to get interested and motivate their staff. Those things usually you can learn.
Does it help to have experience in another field before you become a good a manager, or you just study for it as any other science?
Well, again, here the answer has two aspects to it, okay? If you are going to be a manager, for example, in a highly technical job, understanding the nature of the job sometimes helps. But that's at the functional level. If you aspire to be a general manager, the overall manager of the firm, then understanding the business by itself is not a prerequisite. You know, what you have to understand is the role of the general manager, what's the function of top management in the firm to contribute to the growth of the firm. Understanding the details of the business is less important. You learn as you do it, okay? So it really depends on the level at which you intend to manage.
If you do need experience, how long does that have to be?
Well, for example, in training programs like the MBAs we offer here at the Canadian-Romanian program, we require people to have 3 years experience before they can even enter the training program. And the reason is that business training is not a theoretical undertaking. It's a very practical undertaking. You know, you look at business situation and you learn from your reaction and others what best you can operate decisions to make the firm more profitable or growing. And if you don't have any experience, your contribution to these discussions will obviously be very limited, and so the others will feel they're not really gaining from you in their managerial development. So I think having worked in managerial position for a period of time is almost a prerequisite, and most good MBAs require that experience in order to train people.
Do you honestly recommend education, considering the rhythm of the growth in the Romanian economy, where everything happens so fast and you have to take decisions on the spot? Well,
clearly the Romanian economy is booming, especially since the accession to the European Union. I was just watching the news this morning, and the gross of foreign investment in Romania this year has been 52% more than last year. So indeed there are opportunities for young managers everywhere, and it's very tempting to replace action, to choose action on education. The problem is, as we talked about before, mistakes can be made, and mistakes in business, especially in this environment, are very costly. So I think we have to have a combination of both action and education. Programs like the Romanian-Canadian MBA that we're offering here in Bucharest allow actually for this combination. We allow practicing managers on a part-time basis to come and acquire the basis that they will need to become better managers. It's very important to understand the basics of sales, the basics of finance, the basics of leadership, the basics of dealing with your employees. This is almost a prerequisite to grow as a manager. Okay? Action in itself is limitative in the sense that you're going to need something more that you don't have, and then the risk to the company is fairly high. So education is a prerequisite. In fact, education is a prerequisite during your life. At all stages of your life, of your business life, you should making sure that you're up to date on concepts and on practices.
In your experience in working with managers and entrepreneurs in the beginning of their career, beginners, let's say, what do you think should be their priorities?
Well, not all managers or future managers that we see in our MBA programs actually will be entrepreneurs. I would say it's probably a little bit higher in Romania, but between North America and other places, we usually find that 5 to 10% of students in the MBA programs will end up being entrepreneurs, create their own companies and so forth. And I think the recommendation here is the following. Of course you need to have good ideas, but good ideas are nowhere enough. The business world is a tough world, and if you want to succeed, there's a certain number of things you want to do. When you start being an entrepreneur, you need to finance your project, you need to be able to find staff, etc. To get money to be able to do all of this, you have to convince banks or venture capitals or whatever that your project is worth financing. And for this, you need a good business plan. People are not going to believe in your project unless they can see it's a viable business proposition. So the first advice to anybody that wants to start their own company is get a good business plan, convince people that have the money that it's worth investing in your idea, and I think make sure that your knowledge of the various sectors of what makes a company grow and be prosperous,
Tell me, probably our audience is now saying, well, you're a good teacher and a good, a specialist in MBAs and in management, but you're not from Romania. So, in your opinion, tell me, do cultural differences affect the practices of management and entrepreneurship, or is business everywhere in the world?
Well, there's a lot of components of business which are the same all over the world. You need to be a leader, you need to motivate your staff, you need to have sound finances, you need to have good sales practices, you need to design and conceive good products. But that's common to every country in the world and every business situation in the world. But of course, there are some local factors that actually make the way this is implemented different. For example, the role of government. In countries like China, government is much more prevalent, and I think somewhat the case in Romania, than it is in North America, where there's more, as we said, laissez-faire. So the state has more control on the way business do things in certain countries. That has to be taken into account. The history and the personal relationship also is important. For example, again, in North America, the networks are different than when we go to China or when we go to Eastern Europe, for example. But so I think businesses have to respect local customs and local history and local ways of doing business and local ways of interacting with people. But in general, sound business practices, on the financial side, on the sales side, are fairly common. And what we tend to do, actually, when we teach management in different places, is all of the principles are the same. We adapt the cases, the business cases, to the environment. So when we teach in the Romanian-Canadian MBA in Bucharest, we take Romanian companies, because the way Romanian companies are going to approach problems are very different from big multinationals such as IBM or that you can find, or Coca-Cola that you can find in the US. But Coca-Cola operate and IBM operate in the Romanian market, following Romanian customs. So we tend to take local cases. And I think that alleviates the problem that you were mentioning in your question.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.